The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.
Welcome back to Tony Kurre Radio, and golly, I don't even have my video on there. There I am. I see your lovely face, and there's Tony on the other side there. Keefer, of course. So we just got done doing Need to Know. If you get a chance, check out that show. It's fantastic, and then you can back it up with Keefer and Kurre. You can hear it at least 5 days a week, and of course, also see us on ABC 3340, the starting lineup, where we're going to have one Taylor Hicks on this.
Very exciting.
Looking forward to having him on. He's actually going to be in studio with us. And then Trent Dilfer, the head coach of your UAB Blazers. They have the bye week this week, and they're getting ready to take on Navy next. And he'll join us on the show.
Let's give them some credit,
Saturday.
Tony. Really good effort up in Fayetteville. They played Arkansas tough, and I know Trent had been proud of his team.
He was, he's not into moral victories, and he shouldn't be.
Yeah, of course not.
And this is a team that hasn't beaten an SEC team in 20 years. Last time they did that was Mississippi State. And I told him, I said, when you're up 14, 17-3, don't you wish you could just stop and just revel and embellish the moment? Just feel the moment, just to know that you have a team that you're a 24-point dog against, down 14. Wouldn't it be nice just to be able to take a timeout for like a half an hour and just relish it and just feel it? Because more than likely, we just know, because just while you play 60 minutes, it's probably not going to end up that way.
Yeah.
But boy, they give it a shot. So yeah, congratulations to them. And of course, coming up that ULM loss, he needed to bounce back pretty importantly. So big stuff. You are gracious enough, obviously, to do shows here on Tony Kurre Radio. And I like doing this show because you and I talk a lot, and I consider ourselves brothers, and we do a lot of media things together just recently of all the years we've known each other, and we finally started to work together, and I really enjoy your thoughts and things on a lot of different topics. But I like to come up with some things and just kind of throw some zingers at you just to see what's your thoughts. And, of course, I know you love classic rock. You're really into songwriting. You're into poetry. You do a lot of politics. But there was some breaking news today that really was kind of an eye-opener for me, and I wanted to share it with you. Sean Diddy Combs is in some trouble. And I know
Big trouble.
You probably saw the video that came out several weeks ago.
Yeah.
And we're recording this show, what is today, the 17th?
Mm-hmm.
But we're just hours removed from pleading. He pleaded not guilty to federal sex trafficking. This is federal sex trafficking and racketeering charges on Tuesday. U.S. Magistrate Judge Robin F. Tronovsky judged and denied his request to be released on bail. P. Diddy's going to prison tonight.
Wow. I was not aware of that.
And what's amazing about it is P. Diddy offered $50 million. He said, I'll post a $50 million bond. I'll also wear a GPS monitor around my waist or around my ankles, and I will not travel anywhere outside New York City or Miami. How will that fit you? And the judge said no.
Wow.
She said there's very significant concerns about Combs' substance abuse and what appears to be anger issues. Combs' attorney, Mark Agnifilo, said his team is appealing, obviously, the decision to hold Combs without bail in a hearing set for tomorrow. His attorney said there was a 10-year relationship with a woman, obviously we've seen the video of, presumably about R&B singer Cassie. There was no coercion, no crime. There's basically someone who brought a civil case and now is finding themselves as a witness in a crime case. We're going to fight this case with everything we have as he is, and eventually he's going to be shown to be innocent. It also goes on to say, and again, this just broke earlier, so depending on when you're going to hear this, the charges Combs allege he threatened and coerced women and others around him to fulfill his sexual desires for years. The Bad Boy for Life singer was reportedly offering a $50 million bond so he could be released from the police custody. He also offered to wear a GPS monitor, would accept his travel limited to New York City and Miami. His attorney said he's not a perfect person. There has been drug use, and he's been in toxic relationships. The documents also claim that Combs created a sexual and criminal enterprise whose members and associates engaged in various crimes such as sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. The documents also claim Combs forced victims into sex acts called freak-offs, where he used force to cause victims to engage in intended and extended sex acts with male commercial sex workers that Combs arranged, directed, masturbated during, and often electronically recorded.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. That's how arrogant and just self-entitled this guy is. They had cameras in like every room. The feds have like Tony enough footage to do like 10 full-length movies.
Yeah, they found like 17,000 bottles of KY jelly in his apartment.
Oh my
Listen,
gosh.
when I see this, and I'm glad I read the article, and I don't think enough people read articles.
No,
Once you
they
see
don't.
something,
They
once
look
you
at the
see,
headline,
they look at the
headlines and
headline and
sound
think,
bites.
oh, here's another gold digger trying to get some money from this guy. And we all saw the video,
Yeah,
and she
sure.
probably had it come in, and she probably coerced him into beating her, and da 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 da.
Well, there's a dude that's suing him too that
Yeah.
he took liberties with. So it's not just this is a multitude of people coming forward, and they've got video of it all.
This is a guy who has sold over 11 million albums. He has won 3 Grammys. He's been up for 13 Grammys. He, of course, has his fashion line, which is just as famous as his music line. He, according to Forbes magazine, is worth somewhere between 1.7 and 1.8 billion dollars. He's 54 years of age. He's going to turn 55 coming up in November. And just as a dude, I'm thinking to myself, and I remember thinking about this when Cuba Gooding Jr. Remember a couple of years ago he got caught. He was groping breast. He would go in restaurants or whatever, and he was starting to grab women, and he would get to know these women or something for a short period of time, and he'd grab their breast. And I don't even know where that case is.
Yeah, that kind of disappeared.
You got the R. Kelly situation. You got the Harvey Weinstein situation. You got the Al Franken situation. You get the Kevin Spacey. You get the Bill Cosby. I mean, I go on and on and on. And as a like uber wealthy person, I've always thought to myself, number one, I should never be behind the wheel of a car if I'm drinking or drugging. No reason to be. I've got more money than I could buy Uber if I want to. There's no reason why I should ever be driving. I should no reason why you should ever get a DUI, period, if you're a celebrity. And second of all, you would think you'd have women throwing themselves at you, which they probably do, and you never have to probably pay for sex. You probably should never get, unless you're just an absolute freak, like it appears he is, to get involved in this kind of stuff. And it just, to me, it's starting to feel like, and you know, I talk a lot of rock and roll. Man, I've been backstage at a lot of shows. I know you have been too. I've seen some things that I can't share in this show, and this is an adult show. Some things I don't want to share that I've seen, that I've done, that I've been asked to do. And of course, you know, it was the 70s, 80s, 90s. It was a different time. Doesn't mean it was right. But I've seen and heard some unbelievable stories about, you know, there's been stories out there for years about Bob Dylan. He's got like 23 children. I don't know. I you know, you hear these stories, and it's just, I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, because I consider us both. I've made mistakes in my life. I'm not saying I'm perfect. No one is. And certainly I've been in some situations where, because of what I was doing, and I know you've been in the public eye a lot in what you do for your work, and your voice is well recognized. And certainly there comes a lot of power that comes with that. But seeing this, I'm just starting to believe that just every dude that's in Hollywood is just a scumbag piece of crap. I don't know how else to put it, and I just want to get your thoughts on it. I can't believe that they're not letting him out on bond. That means there's something there.
That is stunning. Because
Sean Pitty is in prison right now, which is hard to believe. And he's gonna be in prison for a while, because it's gonna take a while to get through all this stuff.
A guy worth $2 billion in net worth, I mean, is spending the night on a
can you imagine?
Cell.
I mean, he's scratching his head going, last night I was sleeping in an $18 million bed with whoever and whatever I wanted, doing whatever. And now all of a sudden I'm going to be in an 8x10 cell by myself for the next a year and a half. I mean, that's how quick it can turn at a dime.
You know, it reminds me sort of remember when Tiger Woods' father, Earl, passed away, and Tiger just went wild for almost a year, and all that got documented. Of course, it cost him his marriage. Famously chased down the driveway by his outraged wife with a 7-iron, and crashed his car into a telephone pole trying to get away from her. But Tiger Woods said some interesting things after all that kind of kind of blew. I guess it didn't blow over. But he explained it by saying, you reach a point where you just don't think you're accountable. You reach a point where you think you're at some kind of elite level where you can do anything. And because of your money and your stature and your power and all the people that take care of everything, every detail for you, I mean, you think that you're invulnerable. And he said, I can't believe now, thinking back, that was my mindset. But he said, that's exactly how I felt. I felt like, if I wanted to indulge in my wildest sexual fantasies, or just do whatever I felt like doing at the time, that I was entitled to do that. And I think that's the trap that a lot of these people fall in, that that they just think they're above the rules of society and laws. And it's really kind of an astounding thing, because I like to think that if I had ever been in that position, that I would still have the core judgment and character and integrity and decency, where I could never allow myself to do something like that. But I guess I've never been in that circumstance, so who am I to say? I don't know. I can't put myself in those shoes. But that's the only explanation for this completely irresponsible and just, I mean, in P. Diddy's case, good grief, the things they have on him are just shocking.
It's weird. And you just said something, and I'm so glad you brought up the Tiger Woods story, because he was so candid about that.
Yeah.
He did. He said, "I thought I could do anything. I can get away with it.
Yeah.
I would, and even
I was above,
even when
I
he
was
get,
above regular
yeah,
rules.
he was a bit, and you know why? Because for a long period of time he was. Well, I
Mhm.
mean, P. Diddy, I mean, this goes back 16, 20 years. He's been doing
Yeah.
this stuff for 15, 16, 17 years. Bill Cosby, for all we know, has been doing it since he was making comedy albums
Oh,
back in the 70s. I mean, it could have
drugging
been 40,
women
drugging women for 40, 50
to
years.
abuse. I mean, Bill Cosby. I mean,
And
you
if he
got to think at his height, Bill Cosby was maybe the most popular figure in the entire
could get
country, and
anything he wanted.
he's
Women
bringing
love
women home
comedians.
and drugging them so he can take advantage of them.
And if he
That's
was
just
and if
insane.
he was doing that in his 70s, imagine what he was doing in his 30s and
Oh,
40s.
when he was on I Spy.
Yeah. Um, it's just amazing, because I mean, we're talking the beautiful people, the wealthy people, the powerful people. And you're right. For a period of time, you get away with it. And I've seen people, all people, I've got several friends of mine that have done really, really well for themselves in the celebrity dome, in music, in writing, and they live this life, and they're like, they look back on, they go, wow, man, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, wow, I was doing some things I should not have done. And thank goodness they got smart enough and turned it around, so they could enjoy the fruits of their labors and not spending it, an 8x10 cell. Um, yeah, Trent Dilfer, who I just did a show with, and he'll join us on the starting lineup here next week, was telling a story on our most recent podcast called The Inferno, where it was very candid, and I was appreciative. I was asking him about NFL women. I said, I got tired of watching the Kansas City game because I got tired of seeing Taylor Swift every single time I looked at the TV. And of course, they were beating my Bengals. They beat them by 1 point. The Bengals should have never lost that game.
No, gave it away.
They just pissed me off. And I was asking him, what kind of women does the National Football League bring in? I know what kind of women. I've seen NBA wives. I know about baseball wives, but the NFL, what kind of women? He was talking about more of a pure thing. He said, I will tell you a quick story though. He said, it's amazing because he spent 13, 14 years in the league, and the wives don't get the best seats in the house when they're at home games. He said, they save the best seats in the house to sell. And so they put all the wives together, and it would be nothing to see almost every home game to see a dude's wife sitting right in front of his girlfriend in the wife section. And he's like, I'm not going to mention who used to do that, but I'd walk over to somebody and say, hey, Joe Schmo, look up in section 312. Isn't that your wife? He's like, yeah, I brought Stacy. And wasn't that your girlfriend that you met in Baltimore last night? And she's sitting right behind her.
Oh my
and I'm
gosh.
Like, and he's like, holy crap. And he goes, and then you go out and expect him to make a big play the next time. And he's thinking to himself, holy crap. But he did say he thought that the NFL did a great job. The NFL does a fantastic job. And a lot of this had to do with the Ray Lewis stuff, the Aaron Hernandez situation. They've really tightened the bell strings on a lot of things that they allow their players to do off hours. And he said there's a group of NFL people that work for the league, not for the teams, not for the owners, not for the players, but for the league themselves, that follow these guys around. That's all they get paid to do, is follow these guys around from bar to bar. And they're standing out seeing places going, you ain't coming in here. Nope, it's time to call it a night, guys. It's 1 o'clock. Go home. And he's like,
Wow.
I've been told, because I've seen Montana told, I've seen these guys going, oh, we're fine, we're fine. He's like, no, you've been to 3 clubs. This is not the kind of club you need to be in. They'd stake out places a couple of days ahead of time to know exactly which clubs that players should or should not go into. And he said, they can still do whatever they want, but the guy's like, nope, you're not going in here, because, and they would set up traps for some of these younger players with women, and would have women come in and would say, oh, so-and-so, I just love your playing style and blah, 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 blah. And they're knocked down, drag out, beautiful. And you're talking to this new 19 and 20-year-old kid who just signed a $50 million bonus that he's got $50 million in the bank. He's got all the money in the world. He's a superstar. He's good looking. And you've got women. He goes, you would not believe how many women come out to try to get these guys and either sleep with them, get them to spend the night with them, get to be their husband or their wives, whatever. And he's like, it's crazy. And I was like, I can't imagine. I can't imagine. I really can't. I mean, I've watched enough daytime television to see a guy that is being accused of cheating on his wife. They put him in the green room and they sent a stripper in afterwards, and they got the camera on. And she's sitting there crossing her legs 3 or 4 times, and he's over there looking at her, and she starts coming on to him. And of course, he starts coming back onto her, and she goes like, I knew you were cheating on me. He's like, well, you trapped me, for God's sake. You put me in a green room with a stripper. What was I supposed to do? You do that to the average guy, he's going to get caught every single time. And these guys in the NFL and any other sports, powerful people, they ain't smarter than we are. They're not. And guys do dumb things. We're visual animals. We do stupid things. And the world has changed because that little thing that hangs between ladies' legs. We've had wars for it. We've broken up marriages. Yeah. We've changed countries for it. It's a pretty powerful thing. And to see P. Diddy at this point, I mean, the guy's 54. He should be riding off into the sunset into his career. He should be riding off into his 60s with everything on the table. He's rich. He's wealthy. He was familiar he brought Usher on the scene. He brought Notorious Big on the scene. He brought all these huge rap singers, Run DMC. And all of a sudden, and you can tell, I don't know what kind of prosecutors these guys are, these civil prosecutors that come in. I mean, these are the cases that make or break your career. You don't think they're going to go all out on him.
Oh, absolutely.
Paint a picture of him.
And he spoon-fed them again. I can't say this enough times. The evidence is absolutely overwhelming. He left it was his own doing. It was like, yeah, I'm going to film all this so I can even get more jollies watching what happened. You talk about I mean, you might as well have lit a keg of dynamite and strapped it to your waist, because I mean, he's just blown himself right up, because there's no way to get out of this. He's left a trail of evidence, and he's got a whole line of people ready to completely barbecue him, because there's so many people that were abused and beaten and sexually completely inappropriately handled.
There's arson charges in here. What?
Arson, unbelievable.
Arson. I mean, I like to think that we all have good hearts, and I know we're sinners and we make stupid mistakes. I get that. I like to think, regardless of how successful, how good looking, how whatever someone is, how powerful it is, that they use this for good powers and good changes in life. And I realize that some people can't do that. When I see something like this, where he's just put it all out there and basically made his own case against himself, I think about the 100,000 other celebrities that maybe even B actors. Maybe they had a B role in Star Wars: The Return of the Jedi. They never made it to the A-list, but they've got that tape. Whenever a woman comes over to the apartment, they can pop it and go, yep, that's right. There I am right there. And that will bet a woman, because he was in Return of the Jedi. I can't help but think how many dudes and women, I guess, to an extent, have used their power to do things with people that they really didn't want to do, but they did it because they were with that person. And at any time, someone could come out and claim that Gene Simmons fathered 6 of my children. And there ain't a damn thing he can do about it. If it's true, and and he will admit that, you know, his marriage almost broke up 4 or 5 times because he couldn't keep his hand off the women. Could you imagine how many women and what kind of stories would come out against Gene Simmons of Kiss, and how he's still walking outside the bar cell and not inside of it? I mean, it's amazing. It really is.
Yeah, it's astounding. And I guess again, I like to think, Tony, that if I was in that position, that I wouldn't just chuck away my morals and my integrity and everything else. But I guess until you've walked in those shoes, how can you say how you would react when everything is presented to you that way? And how far would you take it if you just felt like you were invulnerable to any kind of repercussions?
And God rest his soul, but I mean, even Kobe Bryant, you know, a guy that a
Oh,
lot of people are like, we can't bring that up yet. Well, I don't know when you can bring that up, but I mean, he
yeah.
had a woman come up to his room, basically wearing nothing, saying, "I want to be with you." And
Yep.
Kobe flipping
And he
Bryant,
was really young at the time.
yeah, but I mean,
22 or something. Yeah.
yeah, but he knew he was going to be a superstar. He knew he was going to be a
Oh
top
yeah.
5
He
guy
was
of all
already,
time.
already one.
And okay, I mean, he was married. I mean, just think about all the things he had, and again, it's funny because you know to just get 15 to 20 minutes of pleasure, to be willing to throw all that away. And listen, I'm not preaching. I've done some stupid stuff too. I mean, I'm here to tell you, but you're right. We always sit with everyone and go, "What are you thinking, dude? You're such an idiot. You're rich and you're doing this." And Aaron Hernandez, what the hell are you thinking? You don't need to be killing people. But until you're actually in their shoes, you will never know what it's like. And you're like, I'm just
Yeah.
telling you right now, I don't give a shit. I'd be in their shoes, and I would never do that. You don't know that. If you're an average looking schmo who never got it done in high school and college, and all of a sudden you're a professional football player, and you got everybody looking at you, loving on you, all of a sudden you've gone from a 7 to a 10 because you just caught 13 passes against the Buccaneers last weekend. You've got women waiting outside the locker room and they're throwing themselves at you. You can't answer that question until you've been there. Unfortunately or unfortunately.
And this is no new phenomenon. I always quote my favorite book, Ball 4 by Jim Bouton, which was written in the late 1960s, before tell-all sports books were ever allowed. He was shunned by all of baseball for several years because he wrote the first insider book. And he talked about the temptations on the road because they were called baseball Annies. And every hotel you checked into, the lobby was full of baseball Annies desperately wanting to hook up with one of the players. And one of my favorite stories in that was I can't remember the player. He was with the Seattle Pilots at the time, which was the original franchise in Seattle. But they got into town on a bad losing streak, and one of their best players walked in the lobby and immediately started chatting up what was described as a very less than attractive woman, pretty downright homely. And he disappeared and never was seen again the rest of the night. And they asked him the next morning, what was up with that? And he said, "Well, we've been going so bad. You know, the old baseball adage is when things are going wrong, somebody's got to jump on the grenade." He said, and somebody said, "Did anybody see her?" And this might be a little graphic for our show, but because I don't know how many people are baseball fans and are familiar with Joe Torre.
Well,
But Joe Torre is kind of a ruddy looking Italian guy, and whatever. Somebody said, "Well, what did she look like?" And one of the players who saw her said, "Kind of like Joe Torre with tits." So this is not a new thing.
No, it's not a new thing. No, it's been going on since Adam and Eve, man. It's just amazing. And
Helen of Troy, the face that launched 1,000 ships,
oh,
because the Prince of Troy stole away the king's brother's wife on a diplomatic trip to Greece.
Yep. That's really funny to kind of go and coincide with this. And it was something I wanted to talk about on Fox 6, but they kind of blew away my idea. But a lot of people brought to my attention, Wesley's booby trap is for sale.
Oh.
They're I thought it.
I passed that so many times in the old
I had
days.
to. I worked at a place called Suds Lounge every Wednesday, and I drove past that thing 1,000 times. And
Oh boy.
I'll never forget seeing a woman with one arm and one leg and a cigarette in her mouth out in the phone booth. She was just basically a pogo stick. And
Perfect.
we walked in, and she's like, "Oh man, I'm up next." I was like, "Okay," and she come hopping out, and it was the most amazing thing I've ever seen.
Oh
Um,
my gosh.
and of
I
course,
never set foot in Wesley's booby trap, I have to tell you.
no,
I passed it because every other weekend when I first worked in Birmingham, my family was still in West Memphis, Arkansas. So I had made the trek every Saturday night, every other weekend back home till
that's a
the next
long,
Wednesday.
lonely road, my friend. So
And
till I
that was
start
before
22.
I-22. That was
Yeah.
every podunk town.
No.
That was Americana defined. And if anybody doesn't believe in the great man upstairs, I'm telling you, Tony, there were times after working all weekend and driving from basically midnight to 4:30 a.m. I swear I was sound asleep at the wheel more times than I know. And somebody piloted me to success. There's no way I should have survived that era.
Jesus was sitting in my front seat. He was my co-pilot many times coming back from Suds Lounge. I'll tell you, coming across the Black Warrior River, across that bridge. Yeah, there's no doubt. But that place is for sale. And then I'm also hearing that the West Valley Ballet, Sammy's, is also going to be closing up. And I'm bringing this up because
Yeah.
those are two places that used to attract a lot of these
Sammy's
types
was
of
an
men.
institution here. I mean,
It
it's
really
been
was,
here
and it was classy
so
for a long time. I
long.
used to do remotes there. I used to do a remote once a month there. Once a month I would do a remote with Rock 99 at Sammy's, and I do it because it was a classy joint. Hell, at one point they were serving dinner up there. You can eat had spaghetti dinners and
Yeah.
stuff, and I mean it was it was a strip joint.
And it
but
was never a scungy place like in some other big cities.
Oh.
There's a row of strip clubs in Tampa. Now I've just heard about this. Of course, I have no personal experience, but there's a row of clubs on one stretch in Tampa, and they're the raunchiest places on the face of the earth. I mean,
Yes.
you go in there and it's like, what did she just do? You got to be kidding me.
I know. No, that's probably far enough. We've gone. And I'll never get that too because I'm like, she don't want to be with you, man. She just wants you to keep pulling out those singles. Just keep pulling out those singles. That poor guy sitting at the end of the bar in his nice leather suit, looking there going, okay, I don't know what this is going to look like in about 3 or 4 hours, but you're going to be broke and she's going to be riding home with someone else.
Oh yeah,
my goodness.
that's the way it works. And I had a good friend who was really a strip club aficionado. And I went into one of the clubs in Atlanta with him one night, and he demanded to see Victoria or somebody who was a regular performer there. And she came back, and he said, "Well, you might as well just settle in here. I got about $400 in my pocket, and I'm not going to be happy till you have every single dollar." And he wasn't looking for anything. He just liked the experience of being, flash some cash and have her right at his beck and call. So who knows what makes people tick? I'm pretty flamboyant. I'll spend money on things, but I never found myself anytime I was ever in one of those places just excessively spending, because it's just, if you have any intellect at all and you're not just bombed out of your mind, it doesn't make much sense.
No.
I don't know what kind of gratification you're going to receive from having your pockets emptied for, just what is just
you might as well take a shot.
Show.
You might as well take a shot, take a woman out to a nice dinner and spend the money that way and hopefully get you something. And maybe you fall in love. But yeah, the dude spends $35 for a watered down Jack and Coke and walks out by himself at 2 o'clock in the morning.
I've been a miserable failure. I have still not figured it out after all this time, and I fear I never will.
Hey, check us out. Tell everybody where you can be found in Radio Land. Then I'll tell everyone about the TV station.
Yeah, I'm really not only I'm just thrilled with our show, the starting lineup on ABC 3340 every Saturday morning, but we've got 2 accompanying radio shows on Jocks 94.5, 8 to 10 Saturday morning, Kip and Terry Game Time. We go around the league. We hear from all kinds of very interesting characters, analyze all the games in depth, get everybody's kind of feeling on the ground at some of the venues where the games are being played. And then on Sunday morning, Tony, this is our 8th year with the morning after from 9 to 11. It's the longest running continuous sports show in Birmingham right now.
There you go.
You guys, of course, eclipsed that with the morning drive, but we've since you guys stepped out and the roundtable guys left, this is our 8th year. So we're the old veterans at
Nice.
Jocks now.
Good.
We love that show because it was an experiment at first to see if people were going to be willing to get up on Sunday morning and talk about the games. And that in the first 3 weeks of the new season, phone lines are jammed. You can't get in. It's absolutely fantastic. And we've got some of the most luminary callers and sports figures and major people from national shows gravitating to our program. So it's great. If you love football, Keefer, Kurre, Keefer, Quillian, the legend, Case Keefer. We dominate the airwaves here on weekends for football in Birmingham.
And check out our K4 Wins website too, k4wins.com. We pick ball games, and I hit my game of the week at Boston College the first week. Hit my dog of the week. I know you hit your game of the week the first week, and we are picking games left and right. We're doing a fantastic job on that as well. So
yeah, I went 1-1 this week. Thank you, New Mexico, for covering against Auburn.
Exactly.
Everybody told me I was insane. My own son said on our podcast last week, "Well, do what you want, but you would have to put a gun to my head to bet New Mexico. I would never bet on them." Well, this just in. Sometimes the old school ways outrule the numbers.
And there you go. We'll have more winners for you. Go to K4 Wins. We give plays daily, and there's free winners on there too, k4wins.com. Check it out, and we'll see you again Saturday morning right around 10:30 on ABC 3340. Have yourself a good week, my friend. Thank you.
Yeah, Taylor Hicks coming in. It's going to be great.
Yes,
you know what I'm going to ask him, Tony?
What's that?
I've always been fascinated by this. Do you remember the song that he basically clinched American Idol with? It was a choice that I wouldn't have thought he would have made in 1,000 years.
Was it the Doobie Brothers?
No, it was "Living for the City" by Stevie Wonder.
Oh yeah, "Living with the City." Yeah, and he actually, when he was in Vegas, that was the first song he played in his set. Which
incredible.
He did like a 12-minute version, like the real version of that when he was out in Vegas. That was unbelievable.
Yeah,
I used to like that song, but pardon me, my daughter's calling. I used to like that song, but then when I heard him sing it, man, I went out and bought the album. I was like, because I never had the album, and what an incredible rendition of that. But yeah, I'm hoping he brings his harp with him on Saturday morning and maybe plays a couple songs for us, and just happy as
that would be great. The Legends already texted me and says, "Would Taylor be willing to come in the Legend Cave?" I said, "Well, ask him."
He might. All
so
right,
anyway, that's going to be a lot of fun.
We'll see you then.
Okay, Tony.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Curre Radio.